Money worry does something strange to the brain. It does not just occupy your thoughts while you check your bank account. It leaks into everything else you do that day. Brain scans now show exactly why financial anxiety spreads so far beyond the actual numbers. Stoic philosophy mapped the same territory long before anyone had the technology to prove it. Researchers studying financial stress found something very specific. Chronic money worry activates the same threat detection circuitry involved in physical danger directly. The brain does not clearly distinguish between an empty bank account and an actual predator, oddly. Both trigger similar activation in regions tied to survival. This explains why financial anxiety feels so disproportionately intense compared to its actual immediate danger. This matters for one reason. Threat circuitry was built for short bursts, not constant activation. When it fires occasionally, it sharpens focus. It also speeds up decisions. When it fires constantly, something backfires. Chronic money anxiety causes this, and it actually impairs the very decision-making it was meant to protect. Studies on scarcity mindset found something troubling. Financial stress temporarily lowers measurable cognitive bandwidth. This makes people worse at exactly the kind of long-term planning they desperately need in that moment. Seneca addressed this exact paradox almost 2,000 years ago. He wrote that a person with too little is not necessarily poor. The person who craves more is the one who is truly poor. He was not romanticizing poverty in any way. He was pointing at something specific. The brain scans now confirm it directly. The anxious craving itself produces most of the suffering. The actual number in the account matters far less. Two people can hold identical bank balances. They can still experience completely different levels of distress. It depends entirely on the story their mind attaches to that number. Epictetus offered a more structural version of this same idea. He taught that wealth does not come from having great possessions. It comes from having few wants instead. This sounds like a slogan at first, but examine what it actually does neurologically. Reducing the gap between what you have and what you feel you need does something specific. It directly reduces the perceived threat your brain is scanning for. The brain is not actually measuring your wealth at all. It is measuring the distance between your current state and your imagined requirement instead. Brain imaging studies on financial decision-making reveal something else worth noting here. People who practice deliberate gratitude show something measurable. This means actively noticing what they already have rather than what they lack. They show reduced activity in the same threat-related regions triggered by scarcity thinking. This is not just a coincidence of vocabulary. Gratitude practices function almost identically at a neural level. This is close to what Stoic writers called noticing present blessings instead of catastrophizing about future loss. Marcus Aurelius practiced a specific mental exercise. Modern researchers now recognize it as a form of cognitive reappraisal. He would deliberately imagine losing something he currently possessed. This was not to induce fear. It was to interrupt the mind's habit of treating current comfort as permanently guaranteed. Oddly, this exercise tends to reduce anxiety instead of increasing it. Brain research on hedonic adaptation shows exactly why. We quickly stop noticing what we already have. This quietly fuels the sense that we need more, just to feel the same baseline satisfaction. There is a specific practice that combines both traditions into something usable today, directly. First, separate the actual number in your account from the emotional story layered on top of it. The number itself is a neutral fact. Second, name specifically what you already have, out loud or on paper. This counters the brain's default tendency to scan only for what is missing. Third, examine whether the anxious thought is about present reality or an imagined future scenario. Most financial dread lives entirely in prediction, not in fact. Fourth, take one small, concrete action within your actual control. Action interrupts the threat loop far more effectively than more thinking ever does. None of this means ignoring real financial problems. Those problems obviously require genuine, practical attention. Stoic philosophy never argued against planning. It never argued against working toward security either. It argued against one specific habit. That habit is letting imagined future scarcity hijack the nervous system in the present moment, long before any actual crisis occurs. Planning itself is genuinely useful. Rehearsing catastrophe on a loop is not useful at all. Brain scans now show a measurable difference between these two activities. Seneca kept a specific practice for this exact purpose, deliberately. He periodically lived simply on purpose. He ate plain food and wore plain clothes for short stretches, specifically to prove to his own nervous system that discomfort was survivable. This is strikingly similar to what modern exposure therapy attempts with anxiety in general. The nervous system needs direct evidence that a feared outcome is tolerable. Only then will it stop treating that outcome as catastrophic. Financial peace was never really about reaching some specific number. Both the ancient texts and the modern scans confirm this. It was about narrowing the gap. That gap sits between what your mind demands and what your actual life currently contains. Marcus Aurelius ruled an entire empire. He still practiced this discipline nightly, without exception. The amount of money involved was never really the variable that mattered most in the end. Consider two people who each just lost a significant portion of their income. One immediately begins running worst-case scenarios on a loop, imagining homelessness, imagining humiliation, imagining every possible downstream disaster before making a single practical decision. The other names the actual number, lists what remains stable, and takes one concrete step that same day, adjusting a budget or making one phone call. Both people face an identical objective situation. Only one of them is spending most of their mental energy on a threat that has not actually materialized yet. This distinction shows up clearly in research on financial therapy, a growing field combining behavioral economics with clinical psychology. Clients are often asked to separate what researchers call anticipatory anxiety from actual present-tense need. Anticipatory anxiety concerns a future that has not happened and may never happen in the form imagined. Present-tense need concerns exactly what must be handled today. Chronic financial stress collapses these two categories together, treating imagined future scarcity with the same urgency as an actual unpaid bill sitting on the table right now. Epictetus drew this same line with remarkable clarity, centuries before behavioral economics existed as a field. He separated what is within our power from what is not, and he placed most future outcomes firmly in the second category. Today's actions belong to you. Tomorrow's market conditions, tomorrow's job security, tomorrow's unexpected expenses mostly do not. Spending today's limited attention entirely on tomorrow's uncertainty leaves nothing left over for the one thing you can actually influence, which is what you choose to do right now with what you currently have. None of this promises that the numbers will always work out comfortably, because sometimes they simply will not, and pretending otherwise would be its own kind of dishonesty. What both the ancient philosophy and the modern brain scans actually promise is narrower and more useful than that. They promise that the suffering attached to money can shrink considerably, even when the money itself has not changed at all, simply by changing where your attention lives inside that single, ordinary day.